Pizza time. Pizza time. Pizza time.
You late?
Pizza time.
Pizza time.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to Pizza Time Podcast, a slice of your movie and gaming and tech news. I think mostly today we'll be focusing on movies, though. Got a lot to cover, a lot of things we watched this week. Ghostbusters Afterlife, Red Notice. Let's just get started. Let's just do it.
Yeah. Ed, do you want to jump in and start with Ghostbusters Afterlife or Red Notice?
I want to talk about Ghostbusters Afterlife first.
Okay. Ghostbusters Afterlife. Both saw it
I'll
last
say
night.
why, but yeah.
You
did?
Well, you want to talk about it, Ed, so why don't you take the floor?
I do.
Your thoughts and your quick review of Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Okay, so I'll start off. I'll preface this with saying that I have a pretty unique view on the film, just because I'm gonna paint myself here, but I've actually never really saw Ghostbusters 1 or 2 before yesterday. Like that, I watched both Ghostbusters 1 and 2 in their entirety for the first time in my life the other night.
Okay.
And so yeah, hey, cinephiles, some people haven't seen The Godfather yet, so
I haven't seen Godfather 1 or 2.
I didn't say it was you. Oh, okay, you can just figure it out. It's fine. No,
Go. I don't care.
but I haven't seen it. Yeah, no, but it's funny because I feel like I've basically seen the movie because of how big they are in pop culture. I knew about the Ecto One. I knew the names of everybody. Like I knew about the whole thing already. I just never actually watched it.
Yeah.
So first time I watched them. Both, by the way, they're both. I actually really love both of them. They're really good movies. They're fantastic. And they're so 80s, but I like them a lot. I really do.
They are very
even
80s.
Ghostbusters 2. Even Ghostbusters 2. I actually really enjoyed it. Review for those movies another day, but I like them.
Yeah, we'll talk about that
anyways. Yeah, but I went to Ghostbusters Afterlife having seen both, and I will have to say that it's a very flawed movie for sure, but I ended up liking it. And here's what I think. What I think people have to sort of get wrapping their head around in terms of the context of the film and how they'll get the most impact is if they watch it knowing that it's basically Jason Reitman's love letter to both Harold Ramis and his character Egon Spengler, because that's basically what the movie is, and it works the best when you know that the movie is basically a love letter to him. If you go in thinking it's going to be a direct sequel in terms of tone to Ghostbusters 1 and 2, you are going to be very disappointed, because it's not those two movies at all. Right. It's very different in tone. It's very modernized. But man, I teared up at the end. Being a fan of only one day, I teared up at the end because it was so good the way it came together around the story of Spengler's family, and then Spengler at the end. But yeah, by the end of the movie, you basically see Spengler. And for anyone who doesn't know, Harold Ramis has been dead since 2014. And so they brought him back using CGI. And so again, having only been a fan of Ghostbusters for like a day, I still felt the emotion of seeing this person. I felt the especially for people who've been through this franchise for the last 30, almost 40 years. Is it 30 years? 40 years? 80, 30 years, 30 or so years.
Yeah.
That wow, it was such a great tribute to him, and that's where the movie's strongest. And so I actually, it starts off wonky. I wasn't sure where it wasn't grabbing me in the first 20 or 30 minutes, but then once it starts going, I was like, okay, it's a special movie in that case. Yeah. Anyways, that's my quick review on that.
I think you pretty much hit it on the head, man. It is a love letter to Harold Ramis. It is Jason Reitman's love letter to his dad, who directed the first two.
Correct. That too. Films. Yes. Yeah.
And I think, again, as Ed said, if you go into it knowing that, and you go into it and you expect a pure sequel to the first two, you will be incredibly disappointed. But if you go into it knowing that it's a fun trip, nostalgic trip down memory lane. That's what it is.
It is.
And it's great.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the film. The very end, the CGI with Harold Ramis in it. He looked great. That was really good. That was really great CGI.
Granted, they had I think they had the help of the fact that he was in ghost aura. So they could maybe hide some imperfections a little bit.
Yeah. But
other than that, I was like,
worked.
oh shit, you look.
Yeah.
I was like, is that horrendous? How'd they do that? Like that's
that looks
really
great.
Yeah,
and yeah, I think my review of the film, I really liked it. Paul Rudd, when Paul Rudd gets introduced into the movie, I think is when the movie starts actually kind of clicking and going and really start moving.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, I can't remember what director said it, but some director said you can't go wrong putting Paul Rudd in a movie. And I think
so far you cannot.
I think in this in this sense, it really, really applies because I completely agree with you, Ed, that the first 20, 30 minutes, it does take a while to find its footing.
Takes a second. Yeah.
And that can really turn off a lot of people. There's some funny jokes and there's some interesting thing happening, but
it took a while to get to like, why am I watching? Why is it made for it took a second for it to make a case for itself.
Right. Exactly.
Like, why are we watching this? Why does this matter? Because you're not seeing anything yet too much about like the old stuff at all.
Right.
And you're just like,
there's family. There's some old stuff and odes to original and like the opening montage of the film. But yeah, I think that once Gary Gruberson, which is Paul Rudd's funny character's name.
That name is so great.
And let's be honest, it's Paul Rudd playing Paul Rudd.
It's Paul Rudd. It's Paul Rudd.
So once his character gets involved, you find out he's a seismologist, and they move to this place called Somerville, Oklahoma, and you see that there's earthquakes happening every day, and you know Paul Rudd, the seismologist, and the girl, what's the
Phoebe?
Phoebe
Mackenzie. What's her last name?
I'm not
Grace?
sure. Yeah, Mackenzie Grace. She does a great job of playing. She does a great job of playing like basically what Harold Ramis was in.
She's phenomenal.
Yeah, she's a very.
The film largely works because of her.
Yeah,
and she's so good. I think she's fantastic.
Yeah, she's fantastic. She's this very weird, quirky kid, and she really does carry the film.
Super.
And when Paul Rudd and Phoebe meet, the movie does kick into high gear, and they start finding that hey, there's a mystery in this town, and you start to find out that it's the mystery is there because Harold was actually protecting people from something. Spengler was actually there on purpose. It's not just he wasn't crazy. He was framed as this crazy dirt farmer. And yeah, I think the movie works really well. As soon as you get into that moment, it clicks and it goes, and you don't stop.
Yes.
And you start to find old Ghostbusters tech. You find the proton pack. You find the tool he uses to find the ghosts. Yeah, there's this wonderful set that I thought was very so nice and cool. Phoebe sets up a chess set, and she moves it. She moves a pawn, and then she goes away for the day. She comes back home. Another pawn is moved. So they start playing chess together, and you start to realize that it's Spengler, finding a way to, communicate with his granddaughter. And the movie just works. Again,
it really does.
It is a very flawed movie. It does take
very flawed. I have a list of cons.
Yet it came together. Yeah, but it comes together. And look, I'll let Ed go into his cons. Obviously, the biggest con for me is it takes 30 minutes to get into. That was really bad. And then there's the third act does feel terribly rushed, not thought through at all. They obviously again, I think I said this about oh no, we haven't talked about Bond yet. So I'll keep that for Bond because this is going to sound very similar when we do talk
but to jump off really quick about it being rushed. Ghostbusters 1 and 2's third acts also feel like they're also rushed. So
but
it's not without the franchise to rush the third act, but yes, it is rushed for sure.
A note on Ghostbusters, Patrick H. Williams did a fantastic video essay. And if you haven't checked out his YouTube,
he's great.
Go check it out. But he did an essay once on Ghostbusters is a story about nothing. There's really no point to the story.
Yeah.
And it works that way. This one does have a point. It's about family. And anyway, I'm gonna let Ed get into his cons. Go ahead.
No, okay, yeah.
What didn't you like about it?
So here's the again. It all comes. It still ends up being a great movie because it had a vision and it delivered. But there's some pretty major flaws. The first one being Finn Wolfhard and his love interest, in my opinion, could have been completely erased from the film. They're completely superfluous.
Yeah.
You really didn't need them at all. And every time they went back to those two, I was like,
the movie lost
wasting
momentum.
time again.
Yeah.
100%. Because Finn, I feel so bad for Finn, man. Like the dude's catching a break outside of Stranger Things. And he's like not strong enough to be an A-list or like a front center man yet.
Right.
And they keep giving him this like 80s nostalgia. He plays the same character more or less.
Yeah.
He's so stuck. And I'm like, why was this even here? Like you could have just taken him out because Phoebe and podcasts were so strong already. Like that whole thing with podcast so good. He's so funny. Like it worked so well.
Yeah.
But when I get back to him, I'm like, okay, like we're wasting time. Like, what are you doing? So you literally could erase that entire thing with him and the lady, I forget her name, I'm sorry, but the one who he's trying to get with. Lucky. I don't remember. Lucky, sure.
One of those. It wasn't a great name.
It's some word that should work as a name, but it doesn't really. Yeah. So that could have been pulled out. The second thing is that it does pull a Force Awakens a little bit in the sense that it does the whole main antagonist plot point is the same as the first movie.
Yeah,
because Zool and Gozer.
Yeah.
That whole thing is the same thing from the first movie, and they just resurfaced it, and I'm just like, okay, like I feel more or less the same way with how I felt with Force Awakens, bringing back Starkiller Base, because it's like by then the movie's working, and so like you wish you kind of see something different, but it's working, so fuck it. Okay, fine, but you really do wish you saw something different because they're explaining the Gozer thing again. I'm like, I've seen this. I know what this is about. You don't have to explain this to me. Like, I get it. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, so fine. It pulls the Force Awakens.
Yeah. It was clearly the Force Awakens. That's a great critique of it because it clearly is going through some of the same first beats as the first one.
For sure.
And it's clearly there because the writers knew. Well, I think Jason Reitman was the writer on it, and Ivan Reitman. They knew that this was their chance to intro Ghostbusters to a whole new set of people, generation.
Yeah. And again, you're right. Yeah. And it's in the same vein that Star Wars did it. And they probably saw that and they were like, it worked. Let's bring it back.
Yeah, it worked there. Yeah. But okay, keep going.
Yeah, it's it's a half con, I guess, but still, it's like you kind of wish you saw something else. Yeah. You brought it up, first act pacing issue. Yeah, it was rough. Like to get into it, I was like, "What's going on here? I don't know what's happening." And
I was sitting in the theater and I was like, "Okay, come on,
yeah,
something's got to happen.
Get somewhere.
You gotta
something.
Yeah, you gotta give me something."
Yeah, and then I just wanted to touch on the fan service thing that I think a lot of critics are hitting on. Like they say, the fan service was actually a downfall for the film. I would disagree. I think most of it works. The one that I think didn't work, if I had to agree with one, was the marshmallow puff stuff in the Walmart. It was cute, but it didn't make sense. It didn't feel like it needed to be there. It totally felt like fan service because like, Marshmallow Puff Man from the first movie. But like, first of all, why do the ghosts take that form? Is it because it remembered it from the first one? I don't know. It just didn't really. We spent so much time on them, and it felt like it didn't really need to happen. So I was like, I don't know.
Yeah, that's one thing where I can go like they did it to sell toys. Every kid that goes see this movie is gonna go, can I have one of these small marshmallow men guys?
Right. You're right. But it wasted some time.
The fan service that you just kind of like, oh, why did we do that? Yeah.
It's like they filmed it just so they could clip it out and use it as marketing material because, hey, here's Paul Rudd with some cute, funny marshmallow shit.
That's exactly
I want to see this movie. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
it felt so added. Like didn't make any sense. I was like, okay. Anyways, those were the big cons. For me, those were the big cons. But other than that, I thought it surprisingly came together.
Right. I would say, I think it, again, film works mostly because it is fan service. And I think a lot of people that are hitting on it wanted to see something more or something different. Like I've seen a lot of reviews where people said, "Oh, this proves why the first Ghostbusters was such an anomaly." And like, yeah, like the first Ghostbusters is an anomaly. The first one is. It's hard to repeat that. Like that was so funny, but you also have Bill Murray leading the
It's
cast.
hard to repeat that.
Like,
I was going to say, Bill Murray, dude,
Bill Murray.
so good. Honestly, I mean, no offense to the other actors, they're great, but dude, Bill Murray was clearly why the pull for that whole thing because his character is so good.
Exactly.
Peter Venkman is phenomenal, and he does it. He plays it perfectly, and yeah, you're right. And it's just like there's no way they're gonna have a Bill Murray. You can't.
Exactly. You're not recreating
capture that. It's just not happening.
I think if the movie does well, Sony will say, "Let's greenlight a sequel," because now we have a new set of Ghostbusters that can lead into the new day. And, Finn Wolfhard and all those guys will come back, and hopefully we'll get to see.
Unfortunately, yes, but hopefully they get a little bit more.
Funny thing, last thing before we move on to Red Notice, I think we should compare it to the 2016 remake.
Oh God!
Because the 2016 is 75% on Rotten Tomatoes and it's certified fresh.
It's the dumbest thing ever.
Ghostbusters Afterlife is barely hanging on to Freshtown at 61%. But I will say the audience scores are vastly different. 49% for the 2016 remake and 95% for this Afterlife. So, in comparisons to the two films, it's really funny that Paul Rudd was in this movie because I remember saying to people, I would have taken out either Melissa McCarthy or Kristen Wiig's character because I don't care what anyone tells me. They're the same character. We don't need them in the movie. We need one of them, not both of them. And I would have replaced them with somebody like Paul Rudd.
For the 30 minutes that I could only get through in that movie, I would agree with you.
It's a rough movie. It's
really rough. Dude,
the fact that it's so certified fresh. There's two good things came out of that movie. One, it was the first time we got to see Chris Hemsworth be funny, and I think it really helped Thor Ragnarok, and it helped push Thor into this new era because Thor was dead. Thor was done.
Thor was done.
Yeah, they saw that movie.
Chris Hemsworth was done.
Yeah, Chris Hemsworth can be funny. And and then two, the only part of the movie that I actually love and will quote all the time is when Andy Garcia, the mayor of New York City in the movie, is talking to Kristen Wiig's character, and he goes, "Never compare me to the Jaws mayor. Never." And that part just makes me laugh because the Jaws mayor is so bad. But that's the only part I cared about in the movie. So this is by far, Afterlife is by far a superior sequel. And you could almost call it a reboot. And like the fact it's not really getting good reviews is a little puzzling to me. Like people didn't like the writing when I thought the writing was clever. The acting was good.
The writing, it was fun, and it was funny. I love the humor and
funny moments. Yeah.
Again, Mackenzie Grace. A lot of it's coming from Phoebe, which is like,
in podcasts. They really work. The dad jokes, the jokes, the way she delivers the jokes, and they're so dry, is so funny.
Perfection, bro.
Yeah.
Like she does a fun. I tell you, like Mackenzie Grace is great. She's so good. All I want to see was her most of the time, and podcast, obviously.
The difference between a hamster and a cigarette. Like, as they're going down into this very dangerous, cave of crap that they're about to go into. Yeah. Phoebe was fantastic.
I love both of them embodied why it's so great to be a nerd. Like I was like that when I was a kid. Like literally, they did such a good job capturing that.
Podcast is Venkman, Phoebe is Spengler.
Sure.
That's why they work. Yeah. That's why they work. So I think it's just
the podcast is very much more nerdy than Venkman.
Maybe a mix of
He's
Venkman
much
and
more
Ray.
a nerd. Yeah, maybe a mix of Venkman and Ray. Yeah.
Because he's got the I just don't care mentality that Venkman carries around.
Yeah, right. Yeah, true.
Yeah, so I think essentially it's very strange to me that people actually liked Ghostbusters 2016. Well, it's a really bad film.
I have a theory as to why Ghostbusters 2016 did as well as it did.
Okay.
I don't know how truthful you want to get on the podcast.
Go ahead. We can always cut it out.
Right? It's my opinion. Like, okay, true. You're right.
Yeah.
No, but here's my take on that. It was 2016, and it's not too far from where we are right now in 2021. And PC culture was very much alive, and it was the feminism movement and female empowerment. It was the fact that it was an all female cast, and society thought we needed to see more women, and we do. I'm not saying we don't need to. That being said, the movie just didn't work. Okay,
no, that's
all I'm saying.
It
just didn't work.
Yeah, it's a badly written film.
But a lot of people were trying to fight for it. That's it. And
exactly.
And so there was a bias. That's all I'm saying. We're feminists, but the movie just didn't fucking work. Okay, we're also realists. The movie just didn't work, and that's why it has a 74%, because some people just thought they would give it a bone, because it's an all female cast, because we need to see more of that.
Same reason Wonder Woman is at like 85% and Captain Marvel's at 70 something percent. Both are bad films. I don't know if anybody's realized. And then you realize that maybe Patty Jenkins isn't as great as everyone thought she was.
Well, Wonder Woman 2.
84.
I mean,
what is it called?
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, in 1984. Yeah, 84.
That was a bad.
Oh yeah, it was rough.
Anyway,
yeah, it was rough.
That's our little quick review and our discussion about Afterlife. Go see it. It's great. It's really funny.
I think so. I think people should see it. Yeah.
So we agree on that, and I think we're about to disagree on a movie. So now we're gonna jump to Red Notice, the Netflix film starring The Rock, Ryan Reynolds, and Gal Gadot. Maybe I'll say her name right eventually. Anyway, speaking of Wonder Woman, there's a transition. That's how you do it.
Yeah. Zing.
So Ed got to go first. So I'm actually gonna go first on this one. I'm gonna take a sip of water first. And
oh boy, here we go. Damn.
Red Notice is not going to blow your mind. It is not a well-written film, but it is fun. And I don't know if I enjoyed the hell out of it, but I enjoyed it. And you're not going to like this statement. If I'm on an airplane, only these circumstances, people, don't come after me. If I'm on an airplane, I would rather watch Red Notice than watch Dune. I would rather rewatch Red Notice than watch Dune. And we'll talk about Dune later. But overall, stop sighing. Let me get to you. Right?
No. That was fair. That's fair. Yes.
Look, Red Notice. It gave me 90s action film vibes. That's what it was to me. 90s action films, they weren't good. I can name like True Lies being like probably the best 90s action film, and even that movie has some super problems with script and timing and pacing and all that jazz. But this movie reminded me of that. And when you get to the third act, you can see pretty much every twist and turn coming a mile away. But when you get to the third act and they're looking for the third MacGuffin,
the egg,
the final piece of the puzzle, and Ryan Reynolds and The Rock are in this pretty much this Nazi vault in the middle of a rainforest, which was actually, it could have been a pretty cool action adventure film if they like style Indiana Jones, because I was like, this is actually kind of cool how they designed all that. But
sure,
they when they get to that, Ryan Reynolds at one point in the movie goes, "Just look for the box labeled MacGuffin," and I started laughing so loud because that signified to me this movie knows what it is, and it's got no problem with it. And, there were moments I like busted out laughing. I'm sure Ed disagreed. Like the opening chase scene between Ryan Reynolds and The Rock. Ryan Reynolds jumps off a balcony and softly hits this, canopy essentially and bounces off. Yeah. And then like 10 seconds later, The Rock just comes crashing down in a very hard and funny fashion. And I was like, that's pretty funny, actually. So I laughed really hard at that. I kind of enjoyed the film. I didn't hate it. I know it's not well written. The dialogue is trash. Ryan Reynolds is playing Ryan Reynolds. The Rock is playing The Rock. I will say this: that's the best I've ever seen Gal act. That's the best I've ever seen act. I was like, that was good. She was
the one olive branch I will give to the film is Gal is by far the best part of the film.
She was loose and
she's having fun.
And
she's having fun. Yes.
Like I enjoyed the film. Again, you can see every twist and turn coming. You're not gonna have your mind blown with amazing writing. But yeah, I'd watch it again.
Okay.
It was a fun film. And I'll say I kind of wish I watched it in a theater.
Okay. And you could have actually, because originally it was supposed to be distributed by Universal, right? Wasn't it? It was originally supposed to be distributed by a bigger. I think it was Universal, and then Netflix came in and dinged it.
Yeah.
So
okay, go ahead.
Yeah, you could have. Maybe you could have.
Let me know your thoughts.
I do understand that what the film was trying to get. I wasn't expecting it to be some really smart, Ocean's 11 style heist film or whatever, or like caper film. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting it to be just fun. But my biggest gripe with the film is that it made me feel like I was watching Dumb and Dumber 2, but instead of Jim Carrey and Daniel and what's his name?
Dwayne Johnson. Oh no.
No. Jim Carrey and oh my god, why am I forgetting his name?
I know who you're talking
Newsroom
about.
guy.
Newsroom, yeah.
Yeah. Something Daniels. Jeff Daniels. Jeff Daniels? Jeff Daniels.
Yeah, Jeff
right?
Daniels. Yes, that's it.
I should know this.
We know movies.
It made me feel like I was watching that movie, but with Dwayne Johnson and Ryan Reynolds, just because I just feel like I think they went too far. It just, the first hour and a half of the film, I'm like, oh my God. Like to me, it was painfully unfunny. To me, like I think I just wasn't buying. I think I was looking for a little bit more seriousness, and I personally just wasn't having it. I was just like, this is, I feel like I'm watching them trying so hard, but also kind of phoning in their performances, because they are basically playing themselves. Everyone in here is playing themselves, 100%. Except for Gal Gadot, who's having a fun time.
Yeah.
Because she hasn't done this that much, but these two have so many times, and I'm honestly getting sick of Ryan Reynolds because he just plays himself every time, and I'm just even the jokes are the same. Like I just don't understand why. I don't know.
Yeah, he plays it was dry comedian thing.
Yeah, every time, and I guess I'm just getting sick of it. So like it's doing really well. It's one of the highest watched movies in Netflix history.
I think it is the highest.
It's doing its
movie.
job.
Yeah.
It is a bit okay. There you go. So it's doing its job.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I was annoyed. I was so annoyed by the first hour. I was like, I think I'm good. I don't know. I'm just gonna just sit here and hopefully the film goes somewhere. But other than that, like I found it meandering so much. Like the whole the scene in the jail. I was just like, I don't know. The jokes weren't landing for me, and the action towards the end was good. I liked the twist. I was like, okay, I kind of saw it coming, but I was like, okay, like that's fun. Yeah. But I don't know. It's one of my things that just didn't work for me. I wished it kind of took itself a little bit more seriously, because I'm kind of done, I guess, seeing Dwayne Johnson and Ryan Reynolds play themselves. I just don't care for it. Yeah, I don't care for it.
And there's an interesting topic you bring up there that I want to get into just tiny little bit.
Yeah, go for it.
But I think that I had the right mindset for this movie, and I think that matters watching a lot of different movies. You got to be in the right mindset. I think I agree. Ryan Reynolds being Ryan Reynolds is getting a little tiring. It's getting a lot. Like he kind of resurrected his career with Deadpool, and since then he's been the same in every movie.
He's just writing it.
Yeah. And I akin this movie to The Hitman's Bodyguard, with not the second one. Don't watch the second one. The Hitman's Bodyguard. Don't. It's terrible. The first Hitman's Bodyguard with Ryan Reynolds and Sam Jackson. About 15, 20 minutes into the movie, I said, okay, this is what this is. And it was hilarious. And it worked. And again, it's another one of those bad 90s action films, which I feel do have a place in the movie world, whether it's Netflix or any other streaming service, or, you know, even going to make no money in a theater, because everything is superheroes. There's a lot of musicals, or if it's a freaking Disney animated movie, which look, I love all those things. You know, I love all those things, but you know, same, like there should be a place for bad, cheesy action films. It's a genre that kind of died out. And I think it's starting to maybe come back just a little bit.
I can see to that. I definitely think there's a place for it. I'm not saying nobody should watch it. I definitely think if you're looking for a dumb action, because it does know what it is. That's for sure. And I'm like, okay, cool, that's fine. Yeah. So it's really just my own thing. I just didn't like it, but I'm sure I mean, obviously many people liked it. So.
I think a lot of people enjoyed it or semi-enjoyed it. And again, I think that, you know, there is a case to be made for movies that know what they are and lean into it. And I think The Rock especially is pretty good at that. You know.
Oh yeah. The Rock's doing it better than anybody right now.
Yeah. They know.
I definitely think he's doing it better than anybody. Yeah. That's for sure.
And I think that's
I agree with that.
Thing, you know.
I just still think it didn't. I don't know. I still think you can do that, but
still be a little more serious.
Still, I don't know. Just offer something somewhat new. Like, you know, I don't know. Just something new. I don't know, something.
Yeah.
I'm always looking for, like, you know, I'm fine with dumb movies, but there are some movies that just actually try to offer still like a bit of a twist with the genre, or like have its own character, you know?
Yeah. Like,
but I felt like Red Notice is like just any other, like, I didn't particularly think it was bad. It made a voice for itself, you know. It's just it is one of those just regular bad, bad action films. I
think in the third act, where they're trying to capture these 3 eggs of Cleopatra, and they know they're trying to steal them from 2 places and hunt down the third one. And in the third act, they're on their way to find the third one, and you get into this whole kind of rabbit hole of how the Nazis actually stole this egg, and this one Nazi fled to Argentina, which is a true story. Nazis went to Argentina when the war was over to hide. And you can go to Argentina and see like full German towns. It's really weird. But
I didn't know that.
Yeah. And you know, it kind of delves into this, hey, they're kind of like an Indiana Jones / heist movie, which if that was the whole movie,
I didn't hate it.
That could work.
That part, I think I said the third act actually did something pretty cool.
That's a twist on, you know, your typical bad action film, or your typical.
I agree.
You know,
you're not wrong. You're not wrong. So I didn't hate the third act. I gave up on the movie by then. That's the issue. Is that I didn't have me by then. So I was like, great. I mean, cool. This is actually really cool. But I would never watch this movie again just to get to your cool third act. I'm sorry. Like, it's just not gonna happen.
That's a fair point. And Ghostbusters Afterlife brings up the same point. Like 30 minutes in, you almost lost us.
Yeah, almost. If it was just another like 20 minutes of that, I may not have given it. Nope. I think I would have been done. Even with the ending, I mean, like, I'm not gonna watch this again, man. Like, not an hour of this.
To wrap up this conversation on Red Notice, I do want to talk, because I think we feel the same way about Ryan Reynolds, and I think Ryan Reynolds is about to take a year off from acting, because he has said that, because he's been in a lot of friggin' things.
He's been in a lot, yeah.
Are we starting to see the end of good old box office Viagra? Is Dwayne Johnson's star fading a little bit?
It's Viagra.
I mean, look, he reinvigorated a lot of franchises.
That's awesome.
And you know, Black Adam may be good, might not be good.
I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I would say no. I don't feel like at least in terms of the Dwayne Johnson that we're feeling it yet. To be honest, I mean, I might be, but in terms of the overall climate, I still think people are pretty down.
I don't think Jungle Cruise was a huge success, even though I liked it.
It wasn't a failure.
Right. But yeah, that's our thoughts on Ghostbusters Afterlife, and we both highly recommend that one. And then Red Notice, I recommend. Ed says when you're bored.
I put a red notice on red notice.
That's a terrible
Personally.
pun. But anyway, yeah, we'll have
Just
more
saying.
movie talk. Thanks for listening, guys. We appreciate
Thanks for listening,
the time.
everybody.
Yeah, thanks for listening. We appreciate it. And more to come. Thank you so much. Have a great
Bye.
week.